Hello, everybody. My name is Bennett Tchaikovsky, and this is my enrolled agent journey. My disclaimer and copyright notice: the information and opinions in this presentation are those of the author only, and not the author's employers or affiliated organizations, including but not limited to Irvine Valley College and the South Orange County Community College District. This presentation is for educational purposes only and does not constitute any legal or accounting advice whatsoever. This presentation is copyright 2008 to 2020 by Bennett Tchaikovsky. I encourage you to share this presentation and share links of this presentation on an unmodified basis. If you modify the presentation in any way, please email me prior to doing so at 1812cpa@gmail.com to discuss. Note, the author does not claim any copyright whatsoever in any companies or organizations mentioned in this presentation. The other parties are the owners of their respective copyrights. So just as a forward here, a little bit about myself. I'm a licensed California CPA and attorney. I do not need to become an enrolled agent. However, as I have been recommending this pathway to my students who are maybe coming in a little bit later into accounting, I decided that I was going to start my journey. And in the words of Benjamin Franklin, but nothing in this world can be said to be certain except for death and taxes. So why the enrolled agent route versus the attorney or the CPA route? The biggest one is that there is no educational requirement. To become a CPA, you need 150 semester units. I have many other videos about that. To become an attorney, you obviously have to have a bachelor's degree, and then you have to go to law school for 2, 3, or 4 years, depending on where you're going. Or you can I think you can also do an apprenticeship, but you need to call Miss Kardashian about that. So the other thing about these videos is because my educational background, I have taken a lot of tax courses before in academia. Your experience is going to be different than mine because if you are unfamiliar to tax, you'll want to go through and actually take some tax classes. You could possibly be learning this on your own. But again, it just depends on how you're, the way that you kind of go through and study. But my goal is in terms of becoming an enrolled agent, and so I can actually give you some recommendations for courses of academic classes you should be taking prior to becoming an enrolled agent, using the review course, and then the application process, and then the procedural steps to become an enrolled agent. So this is just kind of like an overview, is that if you look at for an enrolled agent, there is no educational requirement. The cost of the education is really, you could take some classes at a community college. To take those classes at a community college, you could probably do it in less than a year. Whereas for the CPA and the attorney, it's much more significant. So the review course I'm going to be using is the GLIME Enrolled Agent Review course. This is a course that has been created by GLIME. Here is, and I'll do a quick video. So this is their textbook for the individuals. They also have 2 other textbooks for the other sections. So going over here, and why am I using GLIME Enrolled Agent Review? It's because I would never take a professional exam without having materials to study from. So I am a licensed CPA. I am also a licensed attorney, and I'm also a California licensed real estate broker. And when I took the CPA exam, I took then what was known as the Mark Doberman CPA Review, which is kind of morphed into UWorld by Roger. For the California bar exam, I took something called Bar Passers, which I'm not sure if that's actually around. I don't think it is around anymore. And then the California real estate brokers exam, I did also take a review course. I just can't remember the one that I used. But again, because I'm not going to go in and take an exam cold, even though I have a lot of, educational background. So it's really, really important for me to take a review course so that I can adequately prepare myself for this. Because if I don't pass the exam, I don't think my students will ever let me down or ever let me forget about it. Okay. So, what do you need to do to become an enrolled agent? Well, the first step that you're going to go through and do is you're going to obtain a prepare taxpayer identification number. I'm going to go ahead and leave this in the, I'm going to go ahead and leave this in here. So what you would be doing is you would be coming over here and you would be going over here to a new user, and you would go ahead and kind of go through and create your account. What's going to happen here is that as you go through and do the this prepare taxpayer identification number, you're going to have to share information from one of your prior tax returns. And just so you know, I kind of made some mistakes, and I basically had to wait for 24 hours because I input the information in wrong, but I was finally able to get the PTIN. You will need the PTIN in order to schedule your exam with Prometric. So once you have your PTIN, you're then going to schedule an exam at a Prometric testing center. And as far as the Prometric testing centers, these are located all throughout Southern California, as well as I'm not sure where they are in other parts of the country, but I live in Huntington Beach and I'll have to be commuting down to Lake Forest. So I will have to go basically set this up and basically do 3.5 hour exams. So the enrolled agents exam is divided up into individuals, business, and then representation. These exams have 100 multiple choice questions each, and I will need to obtain passing test scores on all 3 exams within 2 years. Once I pass the exams, I will then need to pay $67 and fill out a IRS Form 23. And then the last part over here is to pass a sustainability check. So let's just go over here and take a look at this. So, and I'm getting most of this down over here from the IRS website. So as you can kind of see over here, the special enrollment examination webpage. If I go through and I click on this, you'll see obviously we're in the time of COVID, and we go over here to the site opening list. And going through over here is generally, this is everything that's available. So you can kind of go through here and kind of see what is open. So this is always a good place to go through and to start. So what you'll do is you'll go through, you'll schedule each one of your exams, you'll schedule the individual, you will schedule the corporate, and then you're going to schedule the representation tests. Once you go through and schedule each one of those, you'll then be sent a confirmation via email, and I'll see if I can pull something up to show you what that looks like. I'll try to go through and find one that I can actually show you, but essentially what it is that it's, you'll be given, it'll say that, okay, when do you want to take the test? It'll give you different windows to do, and it was a pretty easy process. The cost, though, for each part of the exam, I believe, was roughly about, I want to say it was $183 or $186 each. So it is not cheap, but it's certainly something that if you look at kind of the benefits of having of being an enrolled agent, I think it's more than worth it. So again, I'll leave some of these down over here. And so as we go to this next slide right over here, so once you are an enrolled agent, you're going to want to go through and to renew your license. You're going to have to renew your and I'm going to get this wrong, you will have to renew your prepared taxpayer identification number every year. And you'll also have to complete 72 hours of continuing education every 3 years. This is pretty similar to become a CPA. You need 80 hours every 2 years. For the bar, I think it's like 25 hours every 3 years. You also have to keep your contact information current, and then you can also use the enrolled agent's logo. So this is really what I have done so far. Obviously, I've not yet passed the sustainability check, but I have gone through and I have scheduled my exams. So thank you for watching this very first part of the video. If you have any questions or comments, please send them to 1812cpa@gmail.com, and have a great one.